Hey guys, Meteorologist Chris Tomer here with this Monday mountain weather update. My first stop is up to Big Sky, Montana, where you've got 7 inches of new snow being reported this morning up there. Could still see some light additional snow this afternoon. Then you got a heavy shot coming in with the next storm system. Looks like around afternoon, evening of 4-1 into 4-2. So you've got good days ahead up there. I'm actually curious as to what the temps are up there on top of Lone Mountain. All right, let me pull these in so you can see these. So these are the observations up there at 11,162 feet, the summit of Lone Mountain. So it's 14 and a half degrees, so basically 15 degrees up there. Winds aren't too bad, max gusts around 21 out of the southwest. So nice and cold for this time of the year up there in Big Sky. All right, let me take you to radar here this morning, give you the lay of the land across the west. So you're looking at radar. Blue is snow, green is going to be rain, the pink is going to be a mix or ice. So the main thrust of the storm system is hitting California, central and northern California, up to Oregon, Washington, and it's sending overrunning moisture in a lot of Idaho, close to Salt Lake in the Wasatch. It's coming. And you can see this batch heading towards the Tetons as we speak. So that's our next storm system. Let me take you into the northeast. It's going to be all rain after heavy ice accumulation yesterday. It's all rain now. There might be a little bit of ice there in parts of New Hampshire and Maine, and maybe some snow in extreme northern Maine, but it's a pretty warm storm system around the warm side of it now. Here's water vapor across the west. This is mid-levels, so you're looking at oranges and reds. Going to be your that's going to be your drier air. The moisture's in the whites and the blues. So basically, what we have here is a big trough of low pressure, and there are little pieces of energy that will kind of rotate around this area of low pressure like spokes on a wheel. So that's going to keep the pattern active across the west. And there's another big area of low pressure out here. Another way to look at this is in the middle of the atmosphere. So this is all about pressure. And when you see over the west the big dip and you see those greens, you're looking at lower than normal atmospheric pressure. The pattern, big trough, areas of energy rotating through it, and at the center of that green, we're looking at about 2 standard deviations of pressure below the normal 30-year pressure. So this is definitely a strong trough. It's a strong, big area of low pressure with energy rotating through it across the west. So that's why it's going to be stormy, and that's effective the middle part of this week. So it's going to be an active stretch. That's part of my bullet points. Active pattern for the next 8 days, roughly, with 3 different waves of energy rotating through, and the southern tier states will also get in on the action, like southern Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, southern Colorado. I've got big time totals in some of these places over the next 8 days. All right, here's my snow timeline. Best odds of snow for the Big Sky area: Wasatch, Tetons, Colorado, interior BC, the Pacific Northwest, Tahoe, and the Northeast. So like I said, in Big Sky, maybe some light snow accumulation this afternoon, and then heavy late 4-1, 4-2, and even into 4-3. Could be looking at over a foot of accumulation up there. In the Wasatch, you've got some light snow potentially starting up this afternoon. Then it intensifies overnight into 4-1. So you've got heavy snow coming. And then light 4-2, 4-3 in Colorado, heavy on 4-1. That's really the next big surge for Colorado on 4-1. And then moderate 4-3, 4-4, and 4-5 in the Northeast. It's mainly rain. Okay, let me show you the jet stream forecast, and a lot of this, and we'll start this today. A lot of this will correspond. Let me start this animation. Um, a lot of this will correspond to that mid-level pressure pattern I showed you, where you have the big trough and all the energy rotating through. That should be very representative of what we see up at jet stream level at about 30,000 feet, and that's what you're looking at here. So the stronger winds are in the oranges, the reds, the tans. And you can see the jet's active. It's running from west to east, so it's taking all that energy and slamming it into California, the west coast, and then moving these pieces of energy in to Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, and eventually Arizona and New Mexico. All right, here we go. On Tuesday, trough starts to dig a lot deeper. Look how deep it is. That corresponds to that mid-level pattern I showed you. A lot of energy rotating through, and it really does affect the southern tier because of how far south the whole thing just digs. There's Thursday. By Friday, another storm system. Look how far south it goes. And then that rotates up through New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado, and then away. And then there's a little bit of ridging there by the time we get into Tuesday, a little bit of high pressure ridging, but look at the jet coming off the Pacific. Looks like there might be another piece of action coming off there. Let's look at the forecast accumulation over time. So on this, your forecast numbers are light. If you're in the blues, that's under 3. Greens are 3 to 6, yellows 6 plus, reds 10 plus. Couple things going on: departing storm in the northeast, which is warm, and then you've got that storm in the west. All right, here we are. This is early on Tuesday, April 1st. Snow through a lot of Utah, northern and southern Utah. Snow across a lot of Colorado, especially the western slope initially. Snow up in the Tetons, Yellowstone, Montana. Snow back in the central and northern California. Here's early on Wednesday, April 2nd. Another little storm coming through the southern tier. This is early on Thursday, April 3rd. Snow for the Four Corners. Kind of rolls its way up the eastern plains of Colorado with a little bit of snow there. Late Thursday into early Friday, and then it's gone. Another little storm kind of cruising through Colorado there and New Mexico, Wyoming. Late Friday into early Saturday. Then that moves away. There may be another piece of energy behind that. Then we kind of get into a little bit of that ridging pattern I showed you. This is early on Monday, April 7th. Not a lot going on. A little storm up there in the northeast, though, potentially with some snow. All right, here's early Tuesday, April 8th. And there's early Wednesday, April 9th. Not a lot going on at that point. Okay, my numbers all the way through the 7th. 1 to 2 feet for the Wasatch. Looking at about 10 up there for the Tetons. In Colorado, pretty big numbers because there's about 3 different waves that come through with slightly different trajectories each time. So all the zones are included in this for potentially 8 to 16, maybe 8 to 20 inches up there. Some of the biggest numbers are in southern Colorado, but they're pretty evenly spread out. Even a 20 up there over Cameron Pass, looking pretty good. Up in Montana, anywhere from 8 to 14 inches of accumulation, 6 to 10 through Idaho. Interior BC, the numbers have ticked up just a little bit, 8 to 10 through Revelstoke, Fernie, Red Mountain, and Kicking Horse. In California, it's snowing. It's going to snow hard today, tonight, and tomorrow, looking at 1 to 2 feet of additional accumulation. And I mentioned southern Utah and Arizona also in the equation with over a foot of accumulation. Northern New Mexico looking at 10 to 14 inches of accumulation. The issue in the northeast through the 7th will be all the rain mixing in, cutting down on accumulation. I still think we could squeeze out a little bit of snow accumulation at the highest of elevations. And probably the best position is Mount Washington, Wildcat up through Cranmore, Sunday River, and Sugarloaf. All right, guys, we'll end on the big Western map here. And again, we've got some big totals coming with an active flow for about the next 7, 8 days, and then it starts to quiet down. But enjoy this time period because it's going to deliver to a number of different places. Guys, thanks for tuning in here. Always appreciate it. Take care and have a great day.